więc nie wiem, czy ktoś z Państwa chciałby zacząć, czy też mają Państwo nadzieję, że ja zacznę. Dobrze, to ja może zacznę. Zacznę od naszego pierwszego gościa. So I will be asking the questions in English, maybe. I guess all of you understand English, no way? Tak w ogóle powiem, że to jest taka część integralna tego naszego spotkania, więc też, jeżeli ktoś z Państwa czuje, że to jest jakieś spotkanie to właśnie to jest ten moment, kiedy ta prawdziwa interakcja się zadzieje, więc też tak uprzedzam te wszystkie osoby, które chciałyby wychodzić, że jak rozmawiamy o interakcji, to jest właśnie ten moment, kiedy jest miejsce na tą interakcję. To jest trochę inna formuła niż tak tradycyjnie w kinie. Yeah, this is the interaction part, so I was just saying that it's not just a Q&A, it's an integral part of the project. So thank you so much for being here and finding time to come to Świdnica. I'm gonna sit, so everybody does. My first question is for you, Frederick. The question is about the interaction in your project, because you were the one who was actually interacting with the project. I hope some of you will go back home and go through the project tonight or some other night.
Yeah,
could you please tell us what you were doing and how the interaction works?
Sure. The idea with this piece was to have it relatively easy to use because we were partnering with different media. We also actually had a Polish media, but I don't remember the name. It's very complicated. It's very long. And so the idea was that it be accessible to as many people as possible because of the distribution through mainstream media. And we wanted the form of interactivity we chose was to actually just scroll. This is the only form of interactivity besides the menu that you have. The idea is that you decide on the pace of the viewing. So you could actually just ramp through all the photos because it's mainly black and white photos as you've seen and illustrations. But then you could also stick to a photo and take your time on one and let yourself, let the photo communicate, because often one photo often tells more than of the village and what it would be to lose this village, basically.
How many people were involved in the project, and how did it actually start? What was the initial idea?
We are two people, so it's Marco Delprat, who's the photographer, who already came to Warsaw to present it, and myself. And I did more the web part, the interactive, the storyline, and these aspects. And Marco did the photography, and we also had an illustrator. Programmer. So it's a very little team. Also, a sound designer came in at a later stage. So it's a team of 5-6 people, and it was viewed by about 120,000 people through this mainstream media distribution. So quite a lot of people saw it and also gave us feedback. But it's a relatively small team. So nothing like you have been up to.
And one little thing, did the coder developer work with you from the early stage? So you as journalists were kind of consulting what kind of work you're doing with the developer? Or?
Yeah, actually we included, his name is Yanis Sotiropoulos. He's a programmer at a little agency or studio in Berlin called Honig Studios, and we invited him to join us at a very early stage. We even wanted him to come to the village, which he never did, and we really didn't like that. But for instance, the illustrator, she came to the village also. She really got inspired, not just engaging with a work or a team theoretically, just doing your recipe stuff that you do always, but we really wanted the different members of the team to get to know the village, to have a documentary point of view or an understanding of what is of the issues. And so we brought him in quite early, and he helped develop, but he was more of, it always depends with the people you work with. He was more of someone doing the work that you would ask him to do. So he was not like proposing tons of interactivity or things like that. So it really depends.
Pozwoliłabym Kamilowi poprowadzić to spotkanie, ale ja mam pytanie do Kamila, więc jakby musimy tutaj odwrócić tę rolę. Pytanie jest trochę podobne do tego, które zadałeś Fryderykowi, czyli też o ilość osób i o skalę tego projektu, bo jakby w pewnym momencie ten projekt, jak rozumiem, zaczął pączkować, ale potem też przestał pączkować i w pewnym momencie po prostu to wszystko ucichło, więc jakbyś mógł powiedzieć, jak to wyglądała praca i też dlaczego to się tak zwinęło Twoim zdaniem i jak działa ten internet tak naprawdę? Chyba o to jest pytanie.
Nie, to nawet nie jest pytanie o to, jak działa internet, tylko o to, jak działają ludzie, jaka jest dynamika grupy. Chyba o to chodzi. Zaczęło się od jednego człowieka, czyli od Filipa Springera, który tutaj mówi, mówił w filmiku, że on działał na zlecenie jakby pomysłodawców, czyli Przemka i Michała. Ale no, umówmy się, bez Springera by to w ogóle się nie zadziało. Potem dołączyli najpierw studenci Polskiej Szkoły Reportażu, kilkunastu, tak próbnie, żeby zobaczyć, kto może być korespondentem. Potem zaczęliśmy się otwierać na korespondentów na całą Polskę. Chyba w szczytowym momencie było 70-80 naprawdę aktywnych osób. Nie każdy pisał, niektórzy tylko linkowali. No i być może jakimś minusem było to, że się nie spotykaliśmy, tak, nie robiliśmy takich zebrań, no ale jednak to jest projekt, który całą Polskę objął, więc to by było trudne. Szkoda go było centralizować, dlatego internet był naturalną przestrzenią. I kiedy Filip ruszył w podróż i odwiedzał te wszystkie miasta, równocześnie spotykał się z naszymi korespondentami, wtedy to ożyło na nowo, w statystykach strony też widzieliśmy większy ruch, a po książce jakoś naturalnie zaczęło się to wykruszać. Ten Elbląg, który pokazywałem w międzyczasie, to z kolei zrobiliśmy w 3 osoby, czyli ja się zajmowałem dźwiękiem, Filip głównie tekstem, w całości filmami i zdjęciami, no i potem trzeba było to włożyć w kod, że tak powiem. A tam nam nie pomagali korespondenci, bo akurat chyba nie było nikogo w Elblągu. No, projekt trwał w zasadzie ponad 2 lata, w każdym momencie trochę inna ta liczba osób była.
Okej, to może Państwo mają jakieś pytania jednak, interakcja. Tutaj Pan ma pytanie, ja może oddam nasz mikrofon.
So I have a question to Frederick. What is actually the difference between, what you achieved at the end and what you want to achieve? Because you have always a name in the project. So, and I'm quite interested. What was the process and what you actually had to cancel from your plans? So, and the second question would be, what was how did you actually promote this project? Marketing issues, and because it's one of the most important thing after you create this, because you said just that you achieved over 100,000 people watch this documentary, which is actually bravo for you, because it's quite difficult to reach this kind of audience. So.
Could you just specify your first question? I'm not sure I understand.
Just because when you enter in the project, so you want to achieve something, you have your vision, and it's actually a documentary, so what actually you did achieve and then what not, what failed, or maybe nothing failed, maybe you just achieved everything you wanted, and then the project looks like you want.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. That's perfect.
Okay. Well, thanks for the questions. Maybe the second question first. We actually the marketing and the PR aspect of this production, but in general also interactive or web docu, how you call them. It's actually as long as the production itself. That's my understanding of it. Because you really have you work so hard to make it happen, and once it's there, it's not like a product, like a film. where you also have to promote it, but you actually have to make it live, not of itself, but you always have to moderate it, animate it, like in your project, for instance. And so it's very demanding to make it work. And with this project, we, because it's not very participatory, we didn't have, you know, the same dimension as I guess you guys had. So we didn't have that goal of bringing people into the project so much, but we wanted people to hear about this very little village that nobody knows about, which is with this very strange name. And we wanted this to be symptomatic of how Germany is going about energy policy, which is not a straightforward way in our view. And so we really pushed for it to go out. So we did a festival runs, and we reached out to photo festivals, photo galleries even. We tried the web people, the web communities, also people interested in energy issues. So really tapping into all these different communities, but more at the national level. Like, we didn't go too much into the detail. We didn't go down into the trenches like we would do for certain participatory projects, because we didn't want, we didn't need people to participate in the work itself. So we ended up with a relative success in the sense of quantitatively through associating with Süddeutsche Zeitung out of Munich. They helped us a lot because we were, like, they put us on the front page just after the sports, just after the Bundesliga soccer on Monday morning. So we came after in the afternoon, and so everybody was like, okay, what is this? And engaged with it. And even though, you know, it's a mainstream audience, quite a lot of people saw it and discussed it and shared it. So that was a big help. And the Polish partner, I'm sorry I don't remember the name, but I can tell you afterwards. We also had a French media partner, and yeah, we made it travel internationally like this and through the festival circuit, so film festivals, the Geneva International Film Festival, and we also worked really hard to get some awards, which is something you need to do. So we got some design awards and stuff like that. So that helped really a lot to get it out there. And then your first question was on the expectations that we had, the vision. We were quite happy with the impact we had in terms of people knowing about the situation, also internationally especially, because a lot of people don't know about this situation in Germany, that there are still villages being moved and stuff. And so for that we were quite happy, but there was a New York Times story that came out about the village 3 weeks before we went online. And this kind of killed us internationally. Like, it really happened just before, and we couldn't see it coming. So that was a bit of a downer, but still, we could actually build on this story of the New York Times, and also say, look, this is our point of view on the issue, but it's, of course, it's not the same thing. In terms of the project design and stuff, we were a bit low on interactivity, even though it kind of works. We had this expectation of really pushing it much more with the funding that we had, to have other forms of interactivity built in, but we didn't. We had to cut it down at a certain point, because we were also doing this in co-production with Arte, and they also wanted something relatively simple in terms of interactivity. So we boiled it down and made it less complex, and believe that in the end maybe it still works, you know. So we're quite happy with it.
Could you talk a little bit more about the ideas of interactivity?
Yeah, this is going back. What were the first designs we had? Actually, we wanted for instance, the whole story to be just in one throw, a bit like a film, so quite linear, what it is. But here we had to build chapters in, for instance, because of, to also make it, to optimize it for the web, we had to segment it in certain parts. And that we didn't want to do at first. but we had to, so that was a limitation. But in terms of interactivity, we had this at on the first drawing board that we had was to actually first do it in Atavash, and then build, maybe not exactly like your project is designed, but similar. We wanted to go to different villages and make people participate in it. So using this work as a motivational element, and then really engage with social media, which is something we did not do. We used Twitter, but we didn't move into Facebook so much or other social media. So I guess interactivity was much more at the level of making people participate on social media. This is what we were thinking of. Yeah, there were also some other interactive ideas, but I don't remember exactly what we were up to.
Czy mamy jakieś pytanie z sali?
That's the second question for Frederick, I guess. Is there any follow-up after the story? Because you said that this company backed out from this project, so I'm wondering if people who are viewing this right now, for example, what they came out with the story and what they think about it.
There's always this idea that we do a village on the Polish side, and we on the same occasion we would do like an update to Atavash, through that, and tell tell people about what happened in Atavash since. It's just we've had really a hard time finding funding to get something a bit more ambitious than this going, and so we have not done it. But I hear that you have a call out. You said that you were calling for contributions, right, for villages. So no, not really. Okay, okay. So maybe that could have been an opportunity for us to participate in it. We don't have any plans for Atavash right now. But we would definitely do it if we do the Polish version, like really finding a village in Poland at the border with Germany, because we're very interested in that area around Gubin.
I was wondering, even just putting the link at the end of the story to just, for example, just explain people that okay, this project never happened, and this your future imaginations, illustrations, and photographs actually won't happen because the company just stepped up from the project. So maybe just link for an article or something like that that explains the.
It's a good idea. We definitely like an update there. The decision was taken in March by the company. It's a Czech company now owning it, and we're still waiting, though, to get the confirmation that they call it the Land Brandenburg, the region, that they actually decide not to do this type of activity anymore. Up until that happens, it's not clear. Corporate decisions can change quite fast. But good idea. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that that's actually quite interesting that we, when we talk about web projects, we expect them to be alive all the time, and that we update them whenever the situation changes. And when we do films, it's just, okay, so we did the film at a certain point, and then that's it. So that's funny that we really expect the story to be updated.
I noticed when we were talking about funding, Kamil just went. So I'd like to comment on that.
I think it's always hard to find funding, and it's also if you cooperate with some, let's say, local, regional funding programs. It's always. So in our project we didn't have any stuff like that, but because it's always kind of sort of a limitation for what you can do, because then you have to fulfill some specific actions that they want you to take or something like that. Did you have anything like that or?
You mean that the funders have an agenda of their own? Okay.
Or if you want to find sponsors who wouldn't affect the process or the final effect, then it's also harder, because we were lucky enough because we had BlaBlaCar, which was kind of transporting Philip from one city to another, or Olympus, and this company just gave some money and gear, but it was because of the main offer, let's say. But to find some local, for example, companies, that was very bad.
But what about companies like more international companies, for instance, that are operating here?
More international companies interested in small cities in Poland? Not really.
Okay. Well, for our part, the funding was there was a media innovation. There is a media innovation center in close to Berlin, in Potsdam. They gave us some kickstarting funding, and then we got some funding from a journalistic foundation.
German one, or?
German one. It's called the Rudolf Augstein Foundation. And the good thing with these guys is that they are more about opening spaces for journalists than having an agenda of their own. They're not trying to push an agenda at all. At least that's not what we felt they were doing. And they're supporting a lot of projects in Germany, but there are very few foundations there that do that in a serious manner and that respect the work of journalists. So yeah, for them, chapeau. I mean, they're doing it in a really nice manner, very respectful. And then we had the big chance to do a co-production with Arte at a later stage, when our editorial line, our ideas were already developed. So we didn't have to compromise with Arte, which is generally something that also can happen. So yeah, that was a nice thing for us. But may I ask a question? Yeah. I was wondering in your production if the correspondents, if they mentioned in general that it was difficult to get access to protagonists or people that they were talking to. Were people generous, sharing their ideas or talking about their situation in their towns, or was that a big difficulty? Because in our case it was. They were very mum, didn't really want to talk, and we spent a year trying to break that and managed at the end, but it took 10 months actually before they would really open up.
The thing was that if somebody was an active correspondent for our project, so not only share links to other websites, but also a photographer or journalist, usually those people were kind of local activists or journalists, so they already had sufficient background to just know people who would be willing to talk to them. So that was not a problem. Maybe the only problem would be that working as a group of 3 or 4 people, it's like always more fun, and a lot of our correspondents were just alone in those cities, so it's kind of boring sometimes.
Do you think that this is one of the reasons also why the correspondents don't continue on their own? Or
yeah, I think so. And the second is money.
Maybe we will ask our audience if anyone has a question. Czy Państwo są jakieś super.
If it goes to financial part of the project, I'm just curious if did you want to try crowdfunding? Because what is basically in Miasto Archipelag, it's just crowdsourcing, right? You are basing on things that people share with you, so they would like to share money as well to support somehow the idea that how it works. Just a question if.
Yeah, I was I was thinking about it also. We discussed it a lot, but the thing was that actually 3 people who were really engaged in the whole process of Filip Springer, Olga Kitkiewicz, and me. We all have our own projects. So I've just finished a book. Olga is working on a book. It's going to be released this year. Filip is working on the next project from somewhere abroad. And actually, we kind of thought that maybe our correspondence would be this second wave, second power, who would just push it further. And unfortunately, without those central leaders, let's say, especially Filip, it's not the case. So we could possibly try crowdfunding, but first of all we have to kind of define for what exactly we're gonna crowdfund. So maybe that's the thing.
To może teraz po polsku jeszcze tylko, bo to bardziej pytanie teraz, Kamil, do Ciebie właśnie, że w moim odczuciu zabrakło tych liderów, to znaczy za szybko się wycofaliście, bo nie, tak jak słucham o tym projekcie, to wydaje mi się po prostu, że Waszą rolą było animowanie pewnej grupy ludzi i jako animatorka muszę powiedzieć, że trzeba tutaj jakoś wyczuć ten moment, prawda, kiedy animator może się wycofać, więc może trochę za szybko to zrobiliście i za szybko, nie wiem, przerzuciliście tą odpowiedzialność za ten proces.
To nie było do końca tak, to znaczy nie było tego momentu przerzucenia odpowiedzialności, bo nie było w ogóle nadziei trochę chyba na to. To znaczy została powołana fundacja mniej więcej rok temu. Ci korespondenci jakoś tam byli w tym aktywni, tylko że wszelkie nowe inicjatywy spotykały się z entuzjastycznym przyjęciem, ale niestety nie było tam, nie wyłonił się nikt, kto by mógł to pobudzać, a jednak to jest dosyć takie wyczerpujące, jeśli chodzi o kreatywność i o siły dokumentacyjne, bo jednak w wypadku zajmowania się reportażem człowiek się nudzi. To znaczy, wydaje mi się, nie chcę mówić ze Springera, ale wydaje mi się, że jednak po 2 latach już jest trochę wyeksploatowany i między innymi dlatego nie czuję się na pewno zmęczony tak zupełnie. Jest to dla niego ważny projekt. Tak samo dla mnie jest dość ważny, chociaż ja tam aktywnie aż tyle nie robiłem merytorycznie w reportażu. No ale jednak każdy z nas ma jakieś swoje plany i myślę, że to jest ważne doświadczenie, nawet jeśli by miało się to po prostu naturalnie rozpłynąć, to było to niesamowicie ciekawe, jak duża siła została wygenerowana, taka ludzka, jak to pobudziło pewną dyskusję i jakie są możliwości w ogóle, bo to przeszło nasze oczekiwania, jak duża była tego popularność, jak duża reakcja. No i teraz właśnie, jak jest ten drugi projekt Światła Małego Miasta, to ja przynajmniej się staram dzielić tymi doświadczeniami właśnie z osobami, które rozpoczęły tamten projekt, a to już w ogóle nie są osoby, które współpracowały przy mieście Archipelagu. Tam fajne jest połączenie socjologów i reporterów i na jesień powinno coś ciekawego się okazać, jakiś taki przynajmniej e-book dotyczący tych mniejszych miast. No właśnie, żadne z nas nie było na pewno aktywistą takim zaangażowanym w budowanie, nie wiem, świadomości istnienia małych miast albo lokalnego dziennikarstwa. To nie było tej płaszczyzny, to było do opowiedzenia jakaś historia, którą Filip wymyślił, że można opowiedzieć na różne sposoby. No i ona jakoś tam została w pewnym momencie opowiedziana, a stworzył się taki ruch społeczny, który był troszeczkę takim, nie wiem jakby to powiedzieć, efektem ubocznym tak naprawdę, więc to nie był w ogóle cel. W którymś momencie był pomysł, żeby to pociągnąć dalej, ale nie ma, może zabrakło takiego lidera właśnie w rozumieniu społeczeństwa obywatelskiego, nie lidera merytorycznego treści, tylko osoby, która by rozwijała to w ten sposób, w stronę takiego ruchu, no ale to żadne z nas na pewno, bo nie mamy takich ciągów.
Trzeba było zaprosić Towarzystwo Inicjatyw Twórczych do współpracy.
No to na pewno na przyszłość będziemy pamiętać.
Ja mam takie pytanie, jeżeli Państwo mają, to też zapraszam, ale chciałam się wciąć z takim pytaniem. Mówisz o tym, że światła małego miasta prawdopodobnie pojawi się jakiś e-book, czyli zamknięta forma. W projekcie Frederica in your project there was supposed to be more interactivity, but there's a very subtle interactivity at the end. So why do you, I mean, you could have done a film, you could have published a book. So why?
The short answer is that I don't know how to do a film. I'm not a filmmaker. No, but the longer answer is really that we wanted to people to move these images. That was the only idea, is to have images that are stills that you can move, and you can move them at your own pace and just go back into the history, and you actually realize, whoa, this is very, very long. That was the main idea. We want to make that point and do a piece of slow web, because we expect, on the web, we expect things to click and to move around very fast, and we want to do it slowly. So this is our contribution to the scene of interactive documentary. We still think it's interactive, but we agree that it could also be a film. But on the other side, would we have been able to reach 120,000 people with a film? I don't know.
It's hard to answer because the general motivation was and the reason why it all started was it was just Philip's idea. So it's hard to tell what was more important for him. But for me, I'm really into watching what's the future of journalism when it comes to technically the quality of journalism and also the funding, like crowdfunding or paywalls or paper or interactive. Where are we heading to? And that was just one of the ways we can answer this. So everything we did was generally for free. But I really think that web docs or interactive documentaries might be the future of journalism as well, or maybe something similar. Maybe we don't know it, and there's no, that there are not so many projects like that in Poland. So I think it was worth it in general.
Yeah, in interactive documentaries, the genre is starting to produce. It's a bit like also graphic novels. It's also a form that I think is really nice for journalism, but it's very longish, very hard to produce. VR documentaries, VR stories, they also have a future, I believe. But then there are other aspects, like the market needs to develop for these devices properly, but as soon as this happens, I also think that some forms of VR documentary will actually make sense. Telling a story in a room in this kind of format makes sense for certain stories. But then again, the future of journalism is, for me, really a mix of things.
Jeżeli ktoś z Państwa ma jeszcze pytania, to może zróbmy tak, że my nigdzie nie jedziemy. Frederik zostaje tu do jutra. Będziemy się tutaj zresztą kręcić, więc Kamil też, tak, Kamil też zostaje, więc jesteśmy. Kamil jest z Dolnego Śląska, tak, więc jakby też sercem. Tak, więc chyba nigdzie nie będziemy się ani jedno, ani drugi nasz gość nie będzie nam uciekał, więc jeżeli ktoś z Państwa ma pytania, to zachęcamy, żeby tak osobiście porozmawiać. No my wierzymy w StoryCodzie, że przyszłość też audiowizualności jest gdzieś w internecie i na przecięciu tego wszystkiego, co daje internet i tego, co daje nam tradycyjne kino, tradycyjna audiowizualność. Więc bardzo dziękujemy naszym gościom, bardzo dziękujemy Okiem Młodych, bardzo dziękujemy Państwu za współudział. Dzisiaj projekty prezentowali Frédéric Dubois, na Aterwasz.net można zobaczyć pierwszy webdoc oraz Kamil Bałuk,
wiele miejsc w internecie można zobaczyć miasto Feuerwerk.
Ja jeszcze chciałam powiedzieć, że oprócz nas dwóch mniej Ani jest z nami Marcin Marczyk tam na końcu, który czuwał przy naszym sprzęcie rejestrującym. Dziękujemy Ci, Marcin, bardzo. Mamy nadzieję, że się nagrało.